Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ADP group session. Today's topic is about managing professional relationships as a product designer. My name is Chelsea. I'm a product design lead at ThoughtSpot. ThoughtSpot is a Series F startup. We have been around since 8 years ago. And my day to day is to create the best in class experience for the data modelers. And it's a quite technical domain. And I have been designing products for almost 10 years. And I'm based in San Francisco, but I was born in China and spent my childhood and first half of a teenage years in China and moved here for high school. I'm quite passionate about analytics and data products, and I do believe that the technical products need to have the same quality of design and experience, just like consumer products. So today we're actually going to cover the following topics. When I was a product designer a couple of years ago, there's just a lack of focus on career development. I feel like my day to day is about getting across this deadline and deliver something in Sketch or Figma. And no one is really telling me how do I develop a career and move up to the career ladder. And it just seems like all you can do is just to work hard. And so today I want to teach you some techniques. How do you utilize your one-on-one time with your manager? Be it maybe your manager is a designer, maybe your manager is a product person or engineering person. So how do you utilize your one-on-one time there? And secondly, how do you develop the relationship with your manager so that you can move up the career ladder quickly? And thirdly, a lot of the work happens outside of the current company you're at. So we don't just do the work, right? We actually have to build our networks outside of our day-to-day work. So how do you network effectively, be it in person or online? And lastly, how do you measure success and deliver results, being the rock star at work? So how many of you actually have regular one-on-ones with your managers? Great. And is it weekly or is it bi-weekly? Great. So if you don't have a regular one-on-one with your manager, I will highly, highly recommend you to ask for that, and not just for the permission to even put a calendar block recurring event with your manager, direct manager. So at least twice a month, so bi-weekly. And if you have a skip manager who's the manager of your manager, also I would encourage you to have regular monthly checking with interfacing with your skip manager. So in order to maximize your time, one-on-one time with your manager, a lot of the loophole or the wrong way of doing that I've observed is you use the one-on-one time, precious one-on-one time going over projects, which is a really good thing for the company because you're delivering value for the company. But I want you to get out from the one-on-one by actually building in some of your agenda as well. So you should be the one driving the agenda, your one-on-one items. So here are the few things that I want you to periodically review with your manager. So before you review it with your manager, try to reflect on these, and so that you go into your one-on-one with your manager with some of the agenda for yourself, right? So think about during your day-to-day, take a look at your calendar, and or your own to-do list. What tasks do you enjoy the most, and what tasks do you enjoy the least? And that gives you an idea of what kind of work do you want to ask for, and what kind of work do you want to let your manager know that you do not want to continue working on. And the second set of question is evaluate yourself, what kind of work you are best at and what kind of work stresses you out. So I'll give you an example of the indicator of the kind of work that you are really good at, right? So maybe, for example, I personally enjoy concept development. So when I develop concepts during the early stage of a project, I can see myself jamming, putting on some music, and I just can keep at it for an hour without wanting to check my phone or doing something else. So that's a good indicator of what kind of work And the other thing is what, so keep tab of your, the kind of work you get praises, right? So every single time someone, you know, comments on your work in a positive way, write it down. That's a good indicator of what kind of work you're really good at. And you, on the flip side, what kind of work stresses you out, right? So whenever you get, you know, a ton of feedback around something, you might want to ask yourself, do I want to keep engaging this sort of work that is not really my strength, right? And the last set of question is, take a look at of yourself and your peers, right? If you have fellow designers, or you have, you know, your peers in product and engineering, what are some distinguished qualities that you have that no one else on your team has? I would say my example is I get a lot of you know, comments on how uh, easy it is to work with me, and how much initiatives I take to drive agenda. So that is something. If you see the pattern of, you know, people commenting on some of the behavioral traits that you have, you might want to document that and use that to build an agenda and talk to your manager about what you want to get out of your time at the company, right? So what I described about all the list of questions really is to help you build self awareness about what you're good at, what you want to do, right? And now it's time to meet with your manager. And so, in almost all kinds of situations involving human beings, you can never go wrong by first actively listening with an open mind. So, when you first, you know, like get to know your manager, really start to observe and actively listen to your manager in different scenarios. So you can get a sense of what your manager's, what's top of mind for your manager, right? Maybe he or she's really busy with the strategy work, or she's busy with the hiring and headcount. So you keep in mind like what matters to your manager. So going to the meeting, you should address your agenda and develop relationships from this angle, which is solving problems for them, right? It's like all kinds of relationships. We don't just take value from someone else, especially in professional relationships. No one is owning like kind of responsibility to do you good, right? It's not a charity. So in order to help yourself, you need to solve the problems for your manager first. So in other words, your meeting with your manager should never be some kind of generic in-person equivalent of announcing, like happy birthday, right? So it should be really angled at problem solving, and this gives you most control over developing a plan for like coming up with an agenda for what works for you. So for example, if you want to actually take on a new project, you actually are asking something, right? So what do you bring to the table by asking from your manager, right? So probably you want to say, okay, I actually delivered something really valuable. I will, or you actually caught something your manager is scratching her head around, right? So you solve it for her, and then you ask for a project you want to work on, or say, hey, I want to actually take some time off, starting a week from now. In this kind of dynamics, your manager, if your manager is a good one, right, will actually allow you to do almost everything you want to do in your one-on-one if you solve the problem for them. Um, and Also, and one last note about asking for stuff from your manager. For example, if you want to work on another project, come up with, like consider your manager's concerns, right? So maybe think about the backup plan. How do you offboard or wrap up the work you're doing now? Who's going to cover you, right? If you are not going to work on this project. So try to solve the problems for your manager before just going to your manager with your problems. Um, and the next step is I want to talk about. So you might want to ask, okay, so it seems like I just need to deliver value for my manager. What does it even? What do I even do to make myself useful, right? I think this question lingers around. Like this is a very This is I like this illustration. It's a coffee, and a lot of the if you saw a lot of movies, like the interns are also often treated badly, and they always there's nothing they can bring to the table but to just do the lower level busy work, getting coffee for everyone, right? And don't laugh. It's actually if you are that junior and there is really nothing intellectually interesting you can bring to a conversation, even might as well just bring someone a coffee. That can actually make yourself useful instead of sitting around. um, so that's aside from the joke, I think if you focus on the problems, that maybe 20% of your you can predict 20% of problems that your manager is trying to figure out, and you actually take initiatives to do that for your managers, right? I give you some examples. Maybe your manager spends all the time in strategy meetings, and she just doesn't have any time to execute, right? So you could be the one that really helps your manager execute her ideas by getting on the same page with her, understanding what she wants to be done, and do that quickly for her and follow up, right? And say, hey manager, I made progress on some mocks today, and is there any can you take a look, is there anything else you want? So that kind of small micro deliver making yourself useful earns trust day by day from your manager. It goes a long way. um, Another example is in my own experience. I know I myself, I'm pretty comfortable with working with engineers and understanding technicality. So usually, a design manager, directors, or someone who's kind of needing to help with a lot of customer context, especially we're designing for data engineers. I dedicated 6 months of my own free time making myself the expert of what I identify as the half engineer, half designer. So I spend all my free time, countless hours, reaching out to data engineers, get to know them, even outside of work. So I go to their engineering happy hours and meetups, after my work time, and book my calendar for coffee chats, meets and greets with any persona that I'm designing for, and just so that I can learn as much about them as possible, and aggregate it and synthesize my learnings in to some kind of daily weekly reports, and share that with my manager. So and or I can share a bunch of valuable learnings in the design critique because I've spent so much time with the actual customers. And that established me as being a super useful resource to my manager, because she probably doesn't have time to meet with all the and persona type, and I do, and I use my free time. So whatever it takes to make yourself useful, do that, and pay attention to positive reinforcement, right? If even better, your manager tells you what can really help her, right? Do that, and do that well. um and then next, moving on to like how what can you do to make yourself useful, build your professional network, not just like be spending time and doing good work at work, right? I actually encourage you to build your professional network. It might be like a long haul, right? You meet someone and it doesn't reap any value for you next day. It's really important for you to keep generating these professional opportunities anyway. And partly because this builds opportunity muscle memory. The more you try, the more you strengthen your intuitive sense of how and where and why opportunities might enter your career. So I will give you an example. So I'm actually a natural introvert. I hate networking events in my early career. I hate like tapping on someone's shoulder and laugh and just introduce myself. But in order for me to actually expand my network, I set a small goal for myself. So I go to one talk after work every day. I just do one. I do not try to talk to more than one person at one event every day after work. So here's come to my networking tips for introverts. And this actually is very helpful to help you have deep human connection with one person at a time at any situation, not just networking events, right? So when you are at a networking event, say like a UX meetup, and you spot someone who's at a conference. You try to get a sense of who's actually in the room. So don't just strike a conversation with anyone who's like hanging out with a beer, right? Try to understand who's present. If you can look at their profile, like attendees, if they have bios, right, even better. Just try to understand who you're actually approaching before you approach them. And you approach this person one-on-one, right? And you ask them, hey, what is the most excited interesting thing you just learned from the talk? What do you feel most excited about, right, at this event? So you just ask them this very open-ended question, and that, I guarantee you, will actually lower your stress about, oh my god, how do I enter a conversation, formally raise my hand and introduce myself? The worst case is that person is busy, and he or she doesn't have time to elaborate, right? And you just act gracefully. And for introverts, you don't even have to. You just set a small quota. Like if you've done that, I've done my quota for today. That's good. I just be quiet and enjoy the talk at the event, right? So I try to do that for almost 2 years every day after my work. I saw myself becoming very much more and more comfortable having very meaningful conversation about the specific topics. For example, like how do you design for AI, right, or ML, and a bunch of learning that really stimulates my mind. Um, you know, as I learn how to network. Um, so this is how you actually build, like I talked about, how do you develop relationships at work and outside of work. An anecdote I want to bring is a lot of events, like later on in my career, I don't even stress about getting some outcome outside of it. I actually ended up getting a bunch of interest from very high level person who happens to be hiring and invited me to just straight through and do an on-site at really privileged companies. So that is the outcome you can get from spending time outside of your workday to network. Um, uh, and lastly, I would, really encourage you to keep a journal of measuring your own success and deliver results, right? So that helps you from a couple of ways. I would encourage you to try to do a few small things. At the very end of the day, work day, you spend 2 minutes, kind of write down, according to a chart, what kind of things you did that help you move towards the core competencies you want to build. Just do a yes and no and build a chart that fills up the dot. So over time, you will see, okay, like maybe like 30% of the days I actually did a small thing. For example, for me, I will prepare for a talk, right? That will ties into my long-term career goal, which is become a very good storyteller. So I just do that measurement every single day. And the second thing I do at the end of my workday is record what I did that day into like a minute long uh, video, and share it with everyone that I work with, so that people are informed in generally what I've been working on and what are my blockers. And I keep a journal thoroughly of every conversation that happens during my workday. So I have a lot of meetings, and on a typical day, I probably have, 5, 6 meetings, and I actually keep my meetings in a digital document, and I review those meeting notes every 3 months or so to write down what I accomplished, even if your maybe formal cycles in your company hasn't asked for your self review yet, right? But just do a self evaluation based on all your meeting notes, and going to your one on ones with manager, fully aware of your achievements, and try to align on that and see what kind of opportunities you can get to even further you to move along in your career journey with your manager. The last quote I want to keep you with is something that I take with me for many years, like ever since I started working, which was always hang out with people better than you by Warren Buffett. So I actually read a book, his biography, and this thing saying hang out with people better than you seems like a pretty trivial thing, but it's super hard to do because people who are better than you typically don't want to hang out with you. And in order for you to get on their radar and in order for them to actually want to hang out with you, you cannot help but improve yourself. This is just the way the world works. So these words had an enormous impact on me because Warren Buffett helped me understand nothing is more important than getting better people into your life. Better people who are, in terms of career wise, they're more successful, or relationship wise, they're more empathetic. That any good quality that someone's better than you try to bring them into your life. Relationships are, like something that we create and nurture throughout each type of way. And because we, learn and improve from our friends, and some people used to even say that you are the average of the five people around you, right? So if you keep like trying to loop people who are better than you into the core group of who you are, sometimes you can even see, oh my god, like over years, I keep having better quality of life, and you'll see the change that by trying to hang out with people better than you have on your own life, that you will strive to do better. You'll try to, that doesn't mean that you're just becoming jealous or try to compete on every other way. It's just you keep those what if my friends XYZ will do, try to get that bar high, and have that introspection in your life, so that you don't just feel stagnant or feel like that is the best I can do, there's nothing more I want to learn or grow. So I will stop here and start taking questions about anything you are thinking of, and about developing your career as a product designer. uh, 2 weeks, right? No matter how busy that your manager is, um, he will probably appreciate at least some getting some updates from you who leads the team, right? And with this kind of person who generally is very productive and knowledgeable, it seems like he's, like a very high functioning, high performing person, right? I would approach him from, have a clear agenda with him. So when you try to approach him, right, always have agenda. And you can also like attach your one-on-one notes with him in the your event with him, so he will know what you want to cover. So that will actually make it easier for you to actually build relationships and approach him. And I will also encourage you to solve his problem. It seems like for these kind of productive and high performing manager, they will really care about efficiency. So anything you see about kind of process wise, what is blocking designers that make them scratch their head around requirements, or anything around getting involved into too many meetings that don't have time to actually design. So bring up these topics and try to do a brainstorming session with your one-on-one with your manager. So these type of manager really appreciate, even though he or she has different thoughts, he will appreciate you taking initiative to try to solve the efficiency problem with him. The second part is struggle to force the right procedure to other experienced designers. Right. So I think by using the word force the right procedure, we already kind of squared into one mentality of making a change on the team. So there's a top down, right? Top down is kind of forcing this structure on everyone. And there's the bottom up. Bottom up is really actually understanding everyone's pain points, right? Where your designer, put your designer hat on when you try to manage your end users, right? And just understand what is the pain points for your less experienced designers to actually follow a procedure, right?
sometimes if you spend some time understanding why are they not following that, you can actually uncover some new ground. There's some unspoken difficulties that they might have trouble even verbalizing to you, right? So just dig into that and try to from bottom up understand what is blocking them. That might shed some lights for you to have some empathy first, and then approach that top down and enforce your structure and procedures more easily, right? Okay. Claire hang out with people you perceive are better than you. I think that's why I said that's a very controversial quote. There is this hard measurement of what society sees as, you can measure someone's rank and file or income, right? If someone is like a VP of design, of course he or she is very successful. But what I meant by that is you just scan like who has the quality that you want to build on, depending on the core skills you want to have as a product designer, right? And just try to get into this person's get this person's radar and try to be friends with them. Jan said, how do you manage the anxiety of having a conversation with someone that has more experience than you without wanting to agree with everything they say? Learn to gain more confidence as a designer and try to establish value to my opinion and thoughts. My manager could be quite forceful in his opinion. Yeah, I think that's definitely something we all work. That's why like managing relationships, it's an artful dance. So managing experience is more an art than a science, because you just have to push and pull and see like how far can you push without getting yourself fired, right? Or something like really annoy your manager. So I think first of all, I see a lot of designers who are earlier in their career. You can acknowledge you're still inexperienced, and you might have some blind spots or knowledge gap, but still be very articulative and firm with your opinions, right? And just maybe when you have anxiety of voicing your opinions holistically, try to practice that day to day. So try to say that out by yourself and record yourself. That's a quick trick I would encourage you to do if you're facing anxiety, saying things out in a meeting with a bunch of, higher ranked people in the room. So try like recording yourself speaking and watch your own facial expression and tone, and sort of your monitor your nervousness level. Just do that every day. Do a little bit of like storytelling and record it, and you watch yourself. That's the most painful thing I can tell you that you will experience. Just watch yourself, and then you can actually understand, like have more self-awareness of here's how I actually perceive myself as being very confident, and I should amplify that. Here's, like how I actually sound more timid and unsure, I should eliminate that. So just to face your fear, you have to actually just to like squash your fear, you actually have to face it from the front. And the more you do that, actually you will go into meetings with a bunch of managers or intimidating people that will help you ease your nerve. Cool. Jen had a thumb up. People that you can learn from, people that can inspire us. Yes. When I say like hang out with people better than you, right? That's a quote. So it's really like what you want to learn, and you just try to get on these people's radar. I think Leonid had a hand up. Hello.
Hi, Chelsea. Nice to meet you. I'm Leo from Toronto. I just got out of a BrainStation UX design bootcamp, survived. So I'm trying to, I'm trying to break into a new role, an entry-level role. And I was wondering, there's a lot of titles I can kind of target within the company to network with: HR people, senior designers, junior designers. Wondering, like, do you have any advice regarding that? And how was your experience like breaking into your first role?
Yeah, my first product design job was a fairly insulated. So I had a small team. It wasn't a huge company, so that was probably my upside. So the environment was quite informal. It's easy to get to know everyone. And to be honest, I think you probably, if it's your first product design job, you want to actually learn from different functions, learn as much as possible. What's their day like? So I actually learned a ton from the sales team, from the customer success managers, from the business operation guys, from product marketing, just by asking them, like, what are you working on? And, without actually getting distracted and actually wasting too much time socializing with them, I focus on what do they work on, so that I actually had a good exposure to not just design like a word garden type of design situation, but how design actually manifests and impacts different relates to different parts of the company that you cannot learn from a boot camp. So I would encourage you to not just socialize, but really learn, like, what do these business ops people do, right? The example I had, I was working at a SaaS company, so I learned a ton from learning how they actually build Salesforce integration to track someone's conversion journey. So that was even tremendously valuable for me, even to this day, like 7 years later, to talk about, anyone to show my understanding of self-serve products. Yeah. So you will find that most people are super open to share what they're working on. But again, don't get distracted and spending, 5 hours not doing anything but talking to people. So be organized about your time allocation on these learning. Yeah. Okay, so back to my Christian said, his managers knows about software, but not improving team. And Claire said, presume his manager isn't the one engages team members actively, lacks leadership qualities, just generally not a people person. But even a people person sometimes focused on themselves and don't notice the team is struggling around them. Yeah. So if you happen to have a manager who doesn't seem like a people person, right? It's actually quite easy to spot that this person is all business, not a people person. And a lot of time they're quite common in tech that you'll have robotic managers like that. But I would say that down beneath, these people are actually quite warm. They're just too busy. So your manager's world is, so I've been managing for a while, so it's just at least 5 to 8 meetings a day. You have to constantly context switch. So I would try to, like I said, formula number 1, understand yourself. Secondly, understand your manager, right? Maybe you can take a look at your manager's schedule and ask your manager, what are you working on now? Like, what's top of mind for you, right? Just to build your understanding of what their word is, so that you can try to figure out how you can best deliver value for them, right? Like I suggested, maybe for Christian, you're pretty good at leading your projects and giving advice on improving processes, and try to bring your ideas up to your manager. The worst thing is he shot you down and said, no, that's not going to work, right? So what do you lose in that? You don't lose anything. You actually, even if he doesn't listen to you, you show your value by being proactive and just try to solve their problem, right? So I would encourage you to not get too intimidated, actually be more open about offering your opinion to your manager. And that's number 1. And the second thing, before you just share anything on top of your mind, you probably also want to build up your own knowledge a little bit, right? In order to actually offer some help to your manager or deliver some value, you probably want to build your raw knowledge around certain area, or form opinion to the way that's kind of eloquent and you know what you're talking, right? So there's a lot of homework just involved around that kind of knowledge building yourself. So it's actually quite hard to actually deliver value. So like I said, if you want to deliver value, focus on the thing that you can do that actually shows your strength. So in my example, I build my customer knowledge by going to PM's events, right? So I do that every day, and I had these synthesis and reports. So that's one way you can do that, and just show that you are actively solving your manager's problem, even if he or she will shoot you down. So, okay, so we are approaching the end of this, and I don't see any more questions coming in. And I'll just leave my Gmail in here. You can, whoops, send it to everyone. You can, just reach out to me if you want to do, some prep before your big presentation or before your big meeting with your manager. For anything, you can just shoot me an email or add me on LinkedIn. We can talk about, your specific scenario and dive deep into your specific, situation. Okay. Cool. Yeah. No. Well, Jill says, thank you so much. Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for attending on a Friday. Hope you have a good weekend. All right. Bye, everyone.